Warning. Listening to this show may result in increased levels of inspiration, motivation, and innovation. Side effects can include the immediate urge to take massive action to build a better business and life for yourself and others. You've been warned. Welcome to Influencers Radio with your host, Jack Mize.
And welcome back to another episode of Influencers Radio. You know, the term personal branding, it's not a term that you heard very often, if at all, 10, 15 years ago. But today, consumers don't just buy products and services. They're also buying the people behind those products and services. So if you've ever asked yourself the question, do I look the part? If you wonder if you're aligned with your brand, your position, or even yourself, well, you may just find the answer in today's show, because my guest is Annette Bond. She is a certified image consultant and the creator of Your Radiance Style Academy, where she teaches successful, smart women to embrace their authentic best self while using their clothing as a powerful business and communication tool, allowing them to go from feeling off to creating a signature look that is uniquely them, so that they are on brand, getting noticed, and truly stepping into their excellence and even reaching their next income level or promotion. Annette, welcome to Influencers Radio.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm delighted to be here.
Well, you know, I've often said I've never been accused of being a slave to fashion. But it is extremely interesting to me, and it's so clear, that today there's so much focus on, I wouldn't even say fashion, but, that personal brand, regardless of what it is. So really what I'd like to do is kick this off by asking you, with our world as it is, how important is image?
I love what you just said. We'd never really heard of personal brand, right, 10, 15 years ago. And so there is a distinguish between a personal brand and your image and, say, fashion. And it's really that image is, how are you showing up? And we have milliseconds when we see somebody, and basically our brains are trying to discern, who is this person? Do I like them? Do I want to do business with them? And so that, that first impression on deciding who they are and that image becomes very important. And, I like to say the image from the inside out, because we want to see your authenticity and know that you're the real deal.
Well, I think it's important to maybe define some of these terms, because it can be nuanced. One of the things that I know that you say is that style begins with the woman, not the clothes. So can you dig a little bit deeper into that philosophy and how style aligns with brand?
Yeah. So one of the steps that I take when I work with my clients is, the first thing I do is the step I call it the power of you. And it's understanding, who are you? What are your strengths? What do you value? What is the essence of who you are? And then how do we bring that out in your clothes? Because I'm going to generalize here, but most women, what they want to do, they think, I need to go shopping first, find that dress, and then make it fit me. I do the opposite, is let's start with you, and then what does that look like in your outward appearance? And then that becomes, that's how a brand is, how people experience you, their perception of you. And again, do I want to work with you?
Well, and that's, interesting, because, when we're talking about, style is, like I said, it's a nuance. Style is a little bit different than clothing, than, fashion. So because I know when people, and you said something interesting there, that how you do that opposite, right? From go and buy the clothes to try to make the clothes. But we've all heard that term that, I don't think she can pull that off, right? That clothing. And so when it comes to that and building a wardrobe, so what does it mean to have a wardrobe that supports you and your brand and your style?
So when it supports you in your business, for example, women, and I'm bringing up women because that is my primary client that I work with, is women have a very multifaceted business and a lifestyle. And so they may need looking the part, if you will, if they're doing a virtual appointment. Maybe they are they're doing speaking engagements in person, they're networking, maybe they need a look for that brand new introduction with a new client. And so women get very confused, and sometimes it's like overwhelming, like, what am I supposed to wear? And so it's identifying. So what I take them through a process is, how do you want to be perceived? What do you want your clients to know in this moment? So, for example, maybe it's a new client introduction and they say, I want them to know I'm an authority. I want them to know I'm powerful at what I do. Well, that's a very different look than, let's say, you're going to a networking and you say, I want to be approachable. And so it's having those really looks, those how you are being very intentional with how you are showing up so people are perceiving you in that way. So that's where I say when it supports you, is that it supports you in being very intentional on how you are looking the part.
Well, one of the things that I find really kind of unique about you, because it's not just about, fashion. Oh, this looks nice. This is, what's in style. It's not just that fashion focus, because you have a professional background in marketing and communications. And I'm sure that adds a level of expertise when it comes to the psychology of a personal branding. So how do you tie that in when you're working with someone on a personal brand, when it's not just about style and fashion, but it's style and fashion with that purpose of branding behind it?
Do you know, most, and I actually probably almost never use the word fashion. In fact, women, we think of our clothing is fashion, but the women come to me, they're not looking for fashion. They are truly looking, how can I use my clothes to communicate? How can I use my clothes in an elevated way to market myself? So we use it through color. Many, don't think about this, but color has its own personality. So when we think of, just to give you a contrast, when we think of black, when people wear black, and I would say there's nothing wrong with black. I love black, but it's a very quiet color. It's a very introverted color versus, let's say you show up and you go, you know what? I want to walk into the room and I want to be noticed. You know what? Let's look at red. Let's look at maybe a fuchsia. And so that the clothing is actually doing the speaking for you. It's marketing you. It's communicating for you before you even walk into the room. So it's very nonverbal. There are textures There are patterns when you think of, big, bold flowers. Someone might walk in, you're like, whoa, who is that person? Like, wow, they're really flamboyant or they're, eccentric, versus somebody who walks in with a very solid, maybe beige, very understated kind of pastel. We look at that differently. And so many people don't think about it, but there truly is a psychology to all of that. And I always knew this, when I started started in the image and style industry 30 years ago, and I knew it was there. And it wasn't until I became introduced and certified as a fashion feng shui facilitator that somebody out there had put this all together. And I said, I knew it was already there. And so it's just really given me, if you will, a blueprint to really work with my clients and teach them, what do stripes mean? What does a solid, what is that speaking? Just like I mentioned with the colors. So it's very, it's fun, it's interesting, and you can be so intentional with your clothing that you can be very masterful with it, and it's awesome.
Well, yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because you're highly regarded in this industry, and the fashion feng shui. You're only one of only 50 women in the U.S. that are certified in the fashion feng shui. And I think a lot of people, or at least myself, I'm familiar with that concept when it comes to, furniture layout or things like that. But can you get into and tell us about, how that kind of more deeply aligns with style, and also how you got involved with that?
Yeah. So, how I got involved, I'll kind of start that, is I'm part of the International Association of Image Consultants, and part of being credited with them is we have to do, training. You get your CEUs, and this came across my desk one day about this training, and I thought, what is this? And so I thought, oh, there's a book. I'll get the book first before I consider the training. And I literally read the book in like 2 days, and I went, oh my gosh, this is so aligned with how I work with my clients. And why it was so aligned was kind of what I was thinking about earlier is, so fashion feng shui, and I'm going to say it in very simple terms, if anybody's familiar with feng shui, is there are the 5 elements. There's the water, the wood, the fire, the earth, and the metal. And they all have, again, if you will, a personality. And it's really, so it's about where is your essence lie. And I even will use it in simple terms. It's like another personality profile. So if you've taken other personality profiles, I definitely know that this will be familiar. But what it allows me is it helps me to really understand my client better. So if I know that their essence is wood, for example, is they're a very high energy person, they get things done, they're very innovative, they're very inspirational. And so the more I can get to know my clients and the energy, the spirit of their energy, that helps me to help them better with clothing that is going to be aligned with them. And when we honor the essence of who we are, we will always feel comfortable in our clothing. So as I'm using this example about somebody who their essence is wood, is they want clothing that allows them to move. They don't want anything constricted. And so it fits their personality. So that's where we look at fabrics, the fabrics that have the stretch, that it's comfortable. I can move in it. I'm not restricted. So it's so when you talk about a woman who, you had said this earlier about, wow, can I pull this off? When I help them to identify their essence and they are aligned with it, they know they can pull it off. And there's this ease that comes with them. They're like, oh my gosh, this is so me. Like, thank you for showing me who I am. Because many women, they go to the store and the salesperson helps them. And, it's like they go into the dressing room. It's like a salesperson is throwing spaghetti at the wall. Here, try this, try this, try this, try this. And there's no intention on how they're choosing clothes. So when I shop for women, it's like I have so much information about them when I go shopping, and when we are in the dressing room. I also have a virtual dressing room too. It's like, wow, this fits. This is wonderful. Wow, you nailed it. It's because I've done all this pre-work before we go shopping. So that's when I talked about style begins with the woman and not the clothes.
Well, yeah, it certainly brings a lot of clarity to the whole concept of how style aligns with who you are. And you brought up something that I think is pretty important, because style and the way that someone presents themselves, strength and confidence, to me, almost, I would imagine, requires a foundation of comfort. And you talked about it being comfortable, because there's one thing that no matter how nice some clothing looks, if someone doesn't look comfortable in it, it almost overshadows anything else. It overshadows what they're saying, what they're talking about, or, the power of whatever else they're doing. Do you see that as, regardless of anything else, that comfort has to be there for this to work?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, what I will share with my clients is I want you to walk into the room and people see you and they're like, wow, she looks amazing. And they almost don't even know why. It's because they're wearing the clothes and the clothes aren't wearing them. Because many times women will go, oh, that's a fantastic dress, or the color, and it's so not their color, and they walk in and someone will say, oh, I love that dress. That's so not what I want them to say. I want there to be that comfort and confidence and authority that they are truly owning their look. And that's what happens. And it's so magnificent to see that go on.
So there's a fine line, but a big difference between that dress looks good and you look good. Yes,
absolutely. Absolutely. I feel like my client can almost tell too, actually, I'm going to go back a step. There's some women who will just immediately, they'll look in the mirror and they'll go, wow, I love this. And they just immediately I'm reading their nonverbals. And that's really important to me, versus when they look in the mirror and they're like, oh, I don't know. You know what? When you're on the fence like that, that's kind of a temperature gauge to go, you know what? I think we should move on. There's plenty more choices out there. But then there's another situation that can go on, and I've had this with clients, and it's not a bad thing, but when you are deciding, because this is what many women that I work with, they are deciding, I am ready to up-level me. And they're up-leveling their business, they're up and they realize, okay, I'm doing all this newness in my life and elevating. They know they need to elevate them. And so when we're working together, we're choosing pieces and they feel amazing in them. But sometimes that first time they go out, there is a little bit of uncomfortableness because they're almost not used to getting noticed. And I had a gal, she's an amazing, successful woman, and she told me this story. She was on the board of this attorney's firm, and she walked in, and she said it was so interesting how she was being treated. And again, in this kind of situation, it was more of a man's business. She walked in as a woman, feeling like $1 million, looking like $1 million, and she was treated like that. And she actually wasn't used to being treated like that. And so it took her some time to really step into that. So that will go on occasionally. So don't be shocked if it does, as you have to almost try on, if you will, that next version of you.
Well, that's certainly a good uncomfortable, I think, when it comes down to that. Annette, you're just extremely tuned into the subtleties of this that I think a lot of people may not recognize or may not have thought about until now. So in business, just like there's a distinct but maybe subtle difference to the average person between marketing and sales. Also, when it comes to the way that you help them with style, can you talk about some of those subtle differences? One, how women can use style to specifically attract an ideal client, when they're targeting into that, and then how they can also use style to elevate their brand on a broader scale.
Okay. So, one of the things, again, we like people who are like us. So thinking about when you're attracting your ideal client, is that client more of, and I'm going to use this example, I live in Seattle, I'm around a lot of the tech industry. So if you are trying to attract that is an ideal client, they are a little bit more of a dressed down kind of image, more, I'd call it sophisticated casual. So it's not like it's not weekend casual, your grubby jeans. But for example, many of my clients that is their ideal client, they may still wear like a really polished, nice jean with a beautiful jacket. So it's looking at who's on the other side that you're trying to attract versus maybe you're going into a law firm. You need what are those lawyers wearing? And you need to mirror that. Is they want to see you as one of their peers, right? So you're really looking at that client who's on the other side and who you're trying to attract. Again, and then when you think of your brand, what's one word that you want someone to know about your brand? For example, I'm going to share one of my words is excellence. Am I showing up? Is my excellence, exuding from me? Maybe your word is fun. So if they see you, are they seeing any fun? Are you, do you want them to know that you are maybe you're a branding creative when they see you? Are they seeing any creative? And it doesn't have to be the head to toe creative, but there needs to be something that is, again, non-verbally. I'm like, ooh, I like that person. Look at those earrings she wears, or look at that really cool necklace. It really, it's letting that, that part of you, again, be seen, and we're attracted to that. Again, it goes back to that alignment with the authenticness of your business and who you say you are and what you do. And do we see that in the visual?
Well, I think, just your track record and the success that and what you do, the remarkable thing, it's not something that takes months to evolve. It's something that people can, a really appreciable difference immediately with what you're doing. So if I can, I'd like to ask you to kind of paint a picture of what are the different ways that someone can work with Annette Bond. What does that look like when someone works, and are there different avenues that they can work with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So right now, all of my services are one-on-one. And so I have a couple different levels. I have the level where a woman just says, you know what? I need to refine my wardrobe. Maybe they don't have much, or maybe they have too much, and they're feeling scattered. It's feeling a little overwhelming, and they're saying, okay, I need, as I mentioned earlier, I need my wardrobe to support me. I have a lot going on. I'm doing some travel. I'm doing some speaking. I'm busy. I need you to shop for me. I need you to put my outfits for me together. So there's a lot of concierge behind the scenes that I am doing myself, along with one-on-one style coaching sessions where we're going through this process together and talking about her colors and her body type and who she is, of the power of her, and where does that lie in with the style and with the fashion feng shui. And then I have a program for a woman that says, you know what, I'm a little bit more minimalist. I just need a really basic wardrobe. I do some Zoom meetings. I'm doing, some client appointments. I call it the perfect 10. And it's just having that really nice mix and match basic wardrobe. But also we do identify her colors. We do identify who she is and her body type and put together outfits. But it's just on a little smaller scale. And then my third offering is called Reveal Your Brand. And this is for someone who says, okay, I am going to really up-level my branding pictures on my website. I'm going to be using them for my social media. And I'm investing in a photographer, and I have no clue of what to wear. So I help them to really go through that process of identifying their brand. What does that look like in their clothing and colors? And what are those different outfits? How many outfit changes do they have? And my experience on doing this has been with the photographer has shared with me, wow, when somebody comes in prepared, again, very intentional, like these are my branding photos I need. This is how I want to show up, and everything is all, put together. It just makes it so not only easier for the photographer, but she gets you too. So it's actually a beautiful synergy project with the client, myself, and the photographer. And so I also offer some of those customized sessions in my Reveal Your Radiance signature program also, which was the #1 program I talked about. So they get to do some of those customized kind of situations that they might have for their own life.
You said something that made me think of a very wise old saying when you talked about people having, a lot of stuff in their closet. and people, and the saying was, perfection isn't about when there's nothing left to add. It's when there's nothing left to take away. And I think that's probably so true with fashion, because I think a lot of people, they think, oh, what else can I pile on here? What can I add? What, how many different accessories can I add to really perfect this? Do you find that less is more, or does it just depend on the situation?
What I help women do is get a lot of clarity on who they are, and it starts being easier to decide what they want and what they want to let go of. And so instead of having this whole closet full of stuff, I give them this visual. I say, I want at the end of our time together, I want you to think of your wardrobe as your personal boutique. And so, sometimes it is minimizing, but it also gives them a lot more clarity, and they're not feeling like they're constantly trying to just add more just because. It's because many times they keep adding because they can't get it right. And once they have clarity, it's like, this one jacket we got together, oh my gosh, I have 5 different ways to wear this, and I don't need that extra jacket. So it's kind of interesting to sometimes, not on purpose, but they end up not buying quite as much because they don't need it.
Well, you have a tremendous insight into this, and I think there's a lot of things clicking for a lot of women that are listening to this, because it does seem, and I'm an outsider, I'll say that, but it does seem to be a struggle. Not that I've witnessed, but from talking to several women, especially very successful entrepreneurs. It is a struggle. And I think someone like you can help them overcome this and really hit that potential very quickly. So I want to thank you for coming on and sharing this information today. I'm sure it's going to open up a lot of eyes to just what is possible when it comes to style and how it relates to a personal brand. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. This was awesome. I loved the interaction. It was fabulous. Thank you.
Oh, well, yeah, it was a great conversation. I do have to ask, how can people find out more about Annette Bond and how to get involved with what you're doing?
Yeah, absolutely. So my website is AnnetteBond.com. And I want to invite them to have a 10-page free style guide, and it is my 7 secrets to get dressed with ease and style. And they can go directly to that, AnnetteBond.com/style guide, or just visit AnnetteBond.com. And if they can certainly go to my connection page and, message me directly too. So I'd love to keep connected and continue the conversation.
All right. Well, fantastic. And just tremendous information you have. And what a difference. They really do say, clothes make the man, clothes make the woman. And I think you can help a lot of people get really aligned and in both comfort and style for their personal branding, because it becomes so important these days. Folks, there you have it. Definitely check out AnnetteBond.com. We'll put the links that Annette mentioned and also links to be able to connect with her there on the show post. And until next time on Influencers Radio, remember, you are the only real game changer.
You've been listening to Influencers Radio. To get all past shows and updates on future shows, visit influencersradio.com today.